Part 1. Spirituality and Religion. God created human beings. It was only later that religions came into being. People were not created for religion, but religion was instituted for the evolution of their souls, to help them enjoy the supreme bliss that only comes through union with God. At present, despite modern amenities, material progress, intellectual attainments, and increasing numbers of moral and religious institutions, no one is happy. Most people are unhappy not only with the worldly pursuits they are engaged in, but also with themselves. They may belong to one religion or another, but few seem to find the fulfillment they seek from life. Religions differ externally in form and structure, but there is essentially only one dharma or religion for all humanity. Footnote: Dharma, that which is held fast or kept. Law, propriety, customary observance. Religion, piety, duty, righteousness, moral code, prescribed course of conduct. End footnote. If we explore the various religions right down to their very core, we will find one underlying principle at work. Being human, we all belong to the same class. We are all inspired by the same inner urge. All human beings are the same. The Lord created human beings, not Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, and so on, as they later on became. There were no Sikhs 500 years ago, no Muslims 1400 years ago, and no Christians 2000 years ago. 3000 years ago, there were no Buddhists to be found. Before the Aryans settled in India and practiced Hinduism, many races, along with their social and religious systems, had come and gone. Clearly, human beings are the same, whether from the East or the West. In God's world, there is no high or low, because each one of us is blessed with a soul, which, as Kabir says, is of the same essence as God Himself. What is true religion? What is true religion? This question has stimulated human minds since the beginning of time. Books and scriptures have attempted countless different answers, but there can be only one true answer. Like many archers trying to hit a common target, all religions agree that their purpose is attainment of the ultimate bliss of God realization. Love for God naturally inspires love for His creation. All advanced souls love the creation through their love for the Creator. They love everyone alike and cause grief to no one, believers or non-believers, knowing that all have come from the same source. Farid says, "If thou desirest thy beloved, then hurt thou not anyone's heart." Footnote: Direct quotations from the Adi Granth are taken from the Manmohan Singh translation. End footnote. Sadi says, "Children of Adam are like different organs of one body, for they were created from the same essence. If pain is caused to one organ, the others cannot stay at peace." Nandlal says, "Considering that the creation belongs to the Creator, one should not cause pain to his creatures. Anyone who hurts the creation, O Nandlal, invites the wrath of the Creator." All devotees and pure souls believe in two basic religious tenets: devotion to God and love for His creation. Only if we have within ourselves these basic human qualities do we deserve to be called human beings. We should consider others as children of the same Father. share their joys and sorrows, and have unbounded love for the Lord and compassion for our fellow beings. Harbouring the opposite traits of prejudice, dogmatism, animosity, cruelty, greed, jealousy, hypocrisy, cheating and backbiting can only pollute our hearts. Such perversions take away all joy, all sweetness from life, for a corrupted heart is like a soiled mirror, unfit to receive the image of God. Our soul enjoys supremacy in the creation because it is of the essence of God Himself. Our love for the Creator and His creation brings us closer to Him. Everything has been created from one light, and that light is shining in every heart. How can distinctions of high and low remain when everything has come out of the same light? Kabir says, "In the beginning God created the light, and all human beings belong to Him. Having their origin in the one light, how can some be good, others bad?" The essence of true religion. The part and the whole are the same in essence. External differences in form, colour and clothing, and conflicts among groups and organisations cannot obliterate the unity which is essential to all created things. To love other souls is to love their Creator. One Persian mystic goes to the extent of advising his followers that they may do anything, even drink wine, burn the Quran, or reduce the holy Kaaba to ashes, but they should not bring suffering to others. This love for all souls is the essence of Dharma and true religion. Sadi says, selfless service to the creation is service to God Himself. He is not pleased with service through rosary, prayer mat, and patched cloak. Footnote: patched cloak, a cloak worn by Muslim devotees, ascetics and dervishes, a symbol of devotion and holiness. End footnote. Kabir says, "The Lord abides in all hearts, none is without Him. Blessed is the heart in which He manifests Himself." A Persian mystic says, "If you knew that God abides in the heart, you would love and revere all hearts." Another Persian mystic says, "The Kaaba was merely Prophet Abraham's idol house, but the human mind is the great King's pathway. Bring your mind under control. This is the greatest of pilgrimages. One such mind merits greater reward than 1,000 pilgrimages to the holy Kaaba." A Persian mystic says, "O my heart, do tawaf of realized hearts, for in such hearts is hidden the real Kaaba. The Kaaba was, after all, founded by Abraham. God Himself has made the heart." Footnote: Tawaf, circumambulation, or walking around a holy place, such as the Kaaba in ritual worship. End footnote. Maghribi says, "Bereft of love, futile is all piety, prayer, and penitence. You may fast for 1,000 days, pray 1,000 times a day, and stay awake in devotion for 1,000 nights. None of these will be acceptable to God if you cause grief to a single heart." Sadi says, "You will not earn the King's acceptance if you do not bring comfort to ailing hearts. If you seek the remission of your own sins, do good to God's creatures. All are equal in the eyes of God." Mystics bring to the world the common message that all humans are the same, as they are created by the same Lord. Even when judged by certain external conditions, human beings are essentially equal, be they rich or poor, king or subject, irrespective of their race, country or religion. First, they are born in the same manner, coming into the world through a mother and father, and staying in the mother's womb for the same fixed period of time. Kabir, addressing a high-caste Brahmin, inquires of him, "If thou art a Brahmin, born of a Brahmani mother, then why hast thou not come by some other way?" Footnote: Brahmin or Brahman, a member of the priestly class among the Hindus. End footnote. Second, all die in the same manner. Death makes no distinction among people from different castes, creeds, and countries. Their bodies react similarly to disease and medical treatment. A mosquito doesn't investigate the caste, colour, or race of its victim, and its bite produces the same symptoms, the same disease in all people. Finally, humans respond to pleasure and pain. All are affected by heat and cold, and all need air, water, sunlight, fruit, vegetables, and other foods to survive. All have a similar physical constitution, similar ears, eyes, limbs, and internal organs. All are enlivened by their souls, and all human bodies were created from earth, water, fire, air, and ether, Akash. All live on the same earth, under the same sky. Differences are man-made. Just as physical disorders and ailments incapacitate the body, disorders of the mind reduce people to behaviour beneath that of animals. A person given to these mental afflictions may spill another's blood for selfish aims, or perpetuate ignorance and heartless prejudice, thus sinking low into the mire of inhumanity. Whenever pure and exalted souls appear in the world, they teach us that the differences among religions are based on superstitions and religious vanity rooted in the narrow-mindedness of the adherents. Such ignorance and false pride is like a poisonous scorpion which injects its venom into our systems, making us sick and restless. A Persian mystic says, "In faith and unbelief, only one reality is manifest. Out of ignorance and superstition arise differences among religions. Only their narrow-mindedness sets a Brahmin's cup apart from the sheikh's. Otherwise, in this wine shop, there is only one cup to drink from, only one wine-bearer to serve the wine." Footnote: Sheikh, a Muslim scholar or priest who lives by the Muslim religious code. End footnote. Saints tell us that there is but one Father of all creation. He is the Lord of all the worlds put together, not of just one particular religion, group, or nation. Human beings are created equal. They may divide themselves into countless groups, but in their essence, they remain human beings. Footnote: Saints, Sant, mystics of the highest order. In Sant Mat literature, the Hindi term Sant denotes a God-realized mystic who has attained the region of pure spirit, Sachkhand. For lack of a better term, this word Sant is translated into English as saint. End footnote. Guru Gobind Singh says, "One is clean-shaven, another a renunciant, one a yogi, another a celibate. One is a Hindu, another a Turk, one a heretic, another a believer. Being human, they belong to one and the same class." Footnote: heretic, derogatory term, believer, follower of the Persian religious leader, Safi. End footnote. There is but one merciful doer, who alone is the benevolent sustainer of all. Otherness is due to ignorance and doubt. Serve the one Lord, for he is the master of all. All forms ultimately become one in him. All are reflections of the same one light. We should rid ourselves of superstition and worship the one Lord who is our master and whose light illumines our hearts. Saints have, out of their love and reverence, used countless names to describe and remember the Lord, but in reality he is beyond description, without name. A Persian mystic says, he has no name, but he will respond to any name you might choose to call him. The purpose and methods of worship. The object of all worship is to meet God. Scriptures describe the various modes of worship which were prevalent and recommended at the time of their writing. Each mode and observance was devised for the sole object of creating God's love in our hearts and attaining communion with Him. It is written in the Holy Quran that different modes of worship and rituals have been prescribed by prophets in different times. The Quran says, "We assuredly sent amongst every people a messenger." Rajab says that people engaged in different forms of worship are like archers trying to hit a common target. All are engaged in the worship of their individual idols, O Rajab, but they are like the many archers who aim at one and the same target. Omar Khayyam says that going to temples, mosques, churches and other holy places has no other purpose for devotees than to remember God in one form or another. Both the Kaaba and the idol house are places of devotion. In the sound of the conch is hidden the song of life. The prayer arch, the temple, the rosary, the cross, all in fact aim at worship of the one Lord. Footnote: a conch, generally accompanied by a bell sound, is sounded in temples and Sikh gurdwaras at the time of prayer. Bells are rung and an organ is played in Christian churches. Yogis blow their horns. Jews blow a ram's horn during prayers on special days, and Muslims use a human voice to call the faithful to prayer. All these sounds are symbolic of the real sound, the Shabbat or inner sound of the Word of God. End footnote. All places of worship have been made by people out of earth and water, and one is no different from another. Only that place is good where hearts are illumined with God's presence. A Persian mystic says, "Never say that the Kaaba is better than the idol house. Every place where God's light is manifest is good." Hafiz says, "My purpose in going to the mosque or the wine house is to meet you, O Lord. God knows I have no other purpose than this." Guru Gobind Singh says, "Some worship God in the temple, others offer their prayers in the mosque. People are the same everywhere, only on the surface do they appear different. Whether gods or demons, nature spirits or heavenly musicians, Hindus or Turks, they look different as they come from different lands and appear in different garbs. Allah is above sectarian ties. The Puranas and the Quran give the same message. All have the same form. All are from the same origin." Footnote: nature spirits, a kind of demigods employed in the care of the gardens and treasures of Kubera, the god of riches in Hindu mythology. heavenly musicians, demigods who inhabit the heaven of Indra and constitute the orchestra at banquets of the principal deities. End footnote. Similarly, Guru Arjan says that although people worship God in different ways and for varying reasons, there is only one form of real worship. He says that some people repeat the name of Ram while others remember the Lord as Khada. Some worship him as Gosain, others as Allah. God is the cause of causes. He is a bountiful Lord. He is a merciful one. Guru Arjan goes on to say that Hindus may bathe at their holy places and read the Vedas, while Muslims go on pilgrimage to Mecca and read the Holy Quran. Hindus perform puja and desire swarg, while Muslims offer namaz and long for Bahisht. Some wear blue, others wear white, and some call themselves Hindus, others Turks, but only the one who can perceive God's command, his hukam or will, can know the mystery of the Lord. Footnote: Puja, Hindu devotional practice. Namaz, the prayers performed by Muslims 5 times a day. Both Swarg and Bahisht mean paradise. End footnote. God's own temple. Whether we worship God in a temple, a mosque, a gurdwara, a church, or any other place, our aim should be to enter God's real temple, our own body, and offer our devotions within. True devotion is related to the heart, not to any external place or practice. If one worships God with a pure heart and asks for nothing from God but God Himself, that kind of worship will be fruitful. Not only is this body the temple of God, but the entire creation is His temple, because He is present in everything, and His devotees can worship Him anywhere. The Quran says, "To Allah belong the east and the west. Wherever you turn, there is Allah's face, for Allah is all-embracing, all-knowing." Al-Nasai, a Muslim mystic, says that for him the whole earth is sanctified like a mosque, and that his followers can kneel anywhere at the time of prayer. Kabir says that he was going on a pilgrimage to Mecca when God met him on the way and admonished him, "Who told you I was only at that place?" According to Oliver Wendell Holmes, an American jurist and scholar, any place where people kneel in prayer is a holy place. Many other mystics have expressed similar views on this subject. A Persian mystic says, "The blind worship God in shrines made with brick and mortar. Lovers worship Him in their hearts." Bu Ali Qalandar says, "Why, O ignorant one, do you roam from place to place in search of the friend who lives in your own heart?" Tulsi Sahib says, "It is a pity that a human being, a resident of the natural temple of God, should wander about in pain and despair, looking for God in counterfeit man-made temples." Bu Ali Qalandar says, "There is no worse distraction than going to pray in the temple when the object of prayer is in the heart." Rumi says, "The ignorant devote themselves to the mosque, while lovers strive to purify their hearts." Guru Amar Das says, "This body is the Lord's mansion wherein is revealed the jewel of divine comprehension." In a verse from the Adi Granth, Ramanand asks why he should go anywhere else when God's bliss reigns in his own home, and his mind is now crippled and no longer wanders. He relates that one day his mind was filled with longing. He ground sandalwood mixed with fragrant oils of saffron, aloe and musk, and went to a temple to offer his worship. but his master showed him God in his own heart. Footnote: sandalwood, musk, a paste made from 4 fragrant ingredients that is used for idol worship. End footnote. Holy places have nothing but stone and water to offer, says Ramanand, but the Lord is everywhere and pervades all things. Ramanand says, I have scrutinized the Vedas and Puranas and would pursue their study if the Lord were not right within me. Now I sacrifice myself to my Master, who has banished all my doubts and anxieties. My Master is the all-pervading Lord, and the Guru's Shabad destroys countless karmas. Footnote 1. Stone refers to idol worship, and water to bathing at places of pilgrimage. End footnote. Footnote 2. Shabad, word, the divine energy that created the universe and sustains it. Ramanand calls it the Guru's Shabad because the Guru initiates the disciple and guides him on the path of Shabad or word, through which the soul retraces its journey homewards. End footnote. Religious dissension adds to our bondage. Hindus recorded their scriptures in Sanskrit, Muslims in Arabic or Persian, Sikhs in Punjabi or Hindi, Christians in languages such as Latin, French or English, and other religious adherents in their respective languages. The purpose of reading these books is to learn about God and create love for Him in us. But God Himself is beyond the reach of books. He is the unwritten law of the universe. He is the unspoken language, the language of silence. A language is simply a crude medium of communication. All languages have similar limitations, and, as Hafiz asserts, none is more sacred than any other. You should relate the tale of love in the language in which you are proficient, be it Turkish or Arabic. One is in this regard as good as any other. From a spiritual standpoint, it is immaterial which country, nationality, or religion one belongs to. All are God's children. All are flowers in His garden. We share the same earth. We live under the same sky. Yet how sadly and unnecessarily we have divided ourselves into dissenting groups and organizations. Religion, which purports to deliver us from the bondage of body and mind, has itself become a contributing factor to that bondage. A Persian saying asks why there is strife among religions when they all claim to worship the same God. A Persian mystic says, there is but one light that illumines both the mosque and the idol house. I am at a loss to understand the cause of their mutual animosity. Only the one beloved is behind the veil of the temples and mosques. Flints of different shapes do not produce fire of different kinds. How ironic it is to see religious leaders quarrelling with one another while at the same time preaching the unity of God. It is no wonder that people are turning away from religion when their leaders preach one thing and practice the opposite. A Persian mystic says, ever since the day I discovered strife amongst religions, I have had nothing to do with either the sheikh or the Brahmin. Besides, when preachers are paid for preaching, it shouldn't surprise anyone that religious places have come to acquire a commercial orientation. When faith, devotion and truth yield to ritual and dogma, lovers of the Lord shun religious places. Bulle Shah says, robbers live in dharamsalas, thugs in temples, mosques abound with cheats, so lovers stay aloof. Footnote: dharamsala, a house for pilgrims, inn, almshouse, In Sikhism, it is also a place of worship. End footnote. Animosity and hatred among people is incited by the selfish, the close-minded and the ignorant for their personal ends. In the writings of the Gurus, such people have been termed manmukhs, as they, in their conceit, condemn and abuse those who think differently, and like a tailor's shears cutting through cloth, mercilessly destroy the fabric of society for their own selfish designs. The main purpose of manmukhs in this is self-promotion and encroachment upon the rights of others. They are inimical to those who are engaged in the promotion of unity and tolerance. Footnote 1. The Gurus refers to the Gurus in the line of Guru Nanak, whose writings are included in the Adi Granth. End footnote. Footnote 2. Manmukh, a selfish and ignorant person who follows the dictates of his own mind, as opposed to a Gurmukh, who is devoted to his Guru and diligently follows the Guru's instructions. End footnote. Gurmukhs, on the other hand, are the fountainhead of altruism. They are inspired by God's love and treat others with an all-embracing kindness. The Holy Quran describes them as believers, mu'mins, who show reverence to all prophets. We believe in God and the revelation given to us and to Abraham, Ismail, Isaac, Jacob, and the tribes, and that given to Moses and Jesus, and that given to all prophets from their Lord. We make no difference between one and another of them, and we bow to God. Religions have a common foundation. Certain fundamental principles, moral as well as spiritual, are common to all religions. They recommend that we perform good actions, have faith in God, and strive for union with Him, since He is the inspiration behind all religions. They further enjoin us to serve humanity with love, know ourselves through devotion, realize God, and merge in Him. Saints and other holy people have brought to the world the greatest of all religions, that is, accepting the reality of God, practicing the name of God, and serving one's fellow beings with love. This is the true universal religion, applicable to all humanity and good for all time. This message of the saints has always been and will forever stay the same. Guru Arjan says, of all the religions, the best religion is to repeat God's name and to do pious deeds. Of all the religious rites, the best rite is to remove the filth of evil intellect by association with the saints. Guru Arjan also says, singing of God's praise in the saint society is the highest of all the deeds. Says Nanak, he alone obtains it who is predestined to receive it. Guru Arjan, while compiling the Adi Granth, included in it the writings of mystics from widely divergent social and religious backgrounds and conferred on all equal recognition, showing that there is but one reality, although different people have different names for it. Such noble personalities may appear in any nation or follow any religion. They uplift even the degenerate from their base tendencies, endow them with godlike qualities, and make them fit to merge with the Lord. Saints are above religious differences. Saints are free of religious bias and consider all religions as their own. They do not judge people by external forms, but by the spirit that abides within. They teach the method whereby souls which have been long separated from the Lord can follow the path of reunion with Him. In so doing, they unite people like the beads of a necklace through the string of their love, and establish in a real sense the universal fellowship of all humanity. The essence of their mission is exemplified in a line from Rumi, who cites God's reprimand to Moses when he had broken the heart of one of his lovers. You came down to unite, not to sever. Footnote: Moses, known in Islam as one of the greatest of the prophets, was portrayed in Sufi literature as a medium between humanity and God. Because of this privileged relationship, Sufi stories sometimes show God responding to human doubts and failings through him. End footnote. As mentioned earlier, in the eyes of saints, all people are equal, regardless of their religions and nationalities. Guru Nanak went to the holy centres of Hindus as well as Muslims. He met the leaders of many different religions and gave them the universal message of God's love and kinship among all human beings. This kinship, which cuts across all barriers, has many examples in history. Hazrat Mian Mir, a Muslim mystic, and Bhakt Chaju, a Hindu holy man, were close friends of Guru Arjan. Guru Hargobind Sahib, the sixth Guru in the line of Guru Nanak, built a mosque for the Muslims of Sri Hargobindpur, a city he founded on the west bank of River Beas in Gurdaspur district of Punjab. Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Guru, loved equally people belonging to all religions. In Machiwara, it was the Muslims who rescued him from a siege by the Mughal army. Footnote: Machiwara, a small town in Ludhiana district, Punjab, that figured prominently in the last phase of Guru Gobind Singh's life. End footnote. A touching story further supports this. One of Guru Gobind Singh's disciples, Bhai Ganaiya, who was responsible for the supply of drinking water to the Guru's soldiers, was seen offering water to the enemy soldiers wounded in the battlefield. When the matter was reported to the Guru, he called Bhai Ganaiya immediately to explain his conduct before those who had charged him with treason. Bhai Ganaiya said, "My lord, I am unable to distinguish enemies from friends. I see you in all of them. How can I refuse you a drink?" Hearing this, the Guru said that Bhai Ganaiya had rightly understood his teachings and commented, "A person who has shed the veil of ignorance from his heart will treat everyone the same, whether Hindus or Turks. God is the master of all, and his devotees love those who believe in him as well as those who do not." A man once came to see Moses. When they sat to eat, the man didn't thank God for the food. Moses felt a strong sense of disapproval in his heart. God said to him, "O Moses, I am his bread giver, not you. I do not resent his actions. Why should you?" Saints bring to the world the message of God's love for all human beings, the good as well as the wicked, and they never stop helping people, even if all others have turned against them. They know that all are children of the same Father, even if some children may at times fail to recognize the goodness in the Father. But those who do not love and accept all human beings as God's children have no right to call God the Father. Disparity in religious observances. Variance in religious observances sometimes arises out of differences in lifestyle, social conditions, customs, climate, and numerous other factors that influence the life and thinking of people. For instance, due to an acute scarcity of water in Arabia, the washing of face, hands, and feet, wuzu, before the Muslim ritual prayer, namaz, was introduced as a substitute for bathing. In the absence of water, it was considered sufficient to simply perform tayammum, wuzu with dust, by tapping the palms of one's hands on clean dry earth and then rubbing them on the face and arms as if washing. In the desert area of Bikaner in India, it is believed that a person who uses more than a specified quantity of water for bathing will be held liable in the court of the Lord for every extra drop used. But in India on the whole, water is available in abundance. So in order to get over early morning drowsiness and sit in meditation with an alert body and mind, bathing is a normal practice. Men in the West remove their hats as a sign of respect, but keep their shoes on when they enter a church. By contrast, people in the East generally remove their shoes and cover their heads before they enter a place of worship. All these practices are related to the body, and their sole purpose is to create a devotional attitude. But what must be emphasized is that external observances have no value in the eyes of the Lord. As the basic principles of all religions are the same, it stands to reason that all people should share a common universal religion. Differences among religions arise largely because of differences in the outlook of their followers. When Guru Nanak went to Mecca, the Muslim priests told him that they too believed in the oneness of God, as did Nanak, so he should have no problem adopting their religion. Guru Nanak said that there still remained a difference in outlook, for whereas his concept of oneness was an absolute one, theirs was conditional, hence limited, because they had enclosed it within the bounds of their religion. He pointed out that the universe contained an inestimable number of suns, moons, planets and skies, that innumerable prophets have visited this earth and inspired people to the worship of God, that countless gods such as Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, mystics such as Goraknath and Buddha, and incarnations, avatars such as Rama and Krishna have come and gone, with countless more yet to come, and that countless scriptures such as the Quran have been written at different times, with countless more yet to be written. Footnote: Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, the Hindu triad of gods. Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer, and Shiva, the destroyer. End footnote. God is infinite. How can a soul, confined and limited, know the limitless? How can the finite comprehend the infinite? Who can sing praises of the Lord, the ineffable truth? The closer you get to him, the greater and more magnificent he appears to be. Guru Nanak says, "Thou art the river, all-knowing and all-seeing. How can I, a fish, find thy limit?" Guru Arjan says, "The Lord is limitless, but I can only describe him within limits. What do I know as to what he is like?" Reflecting God in our actions. Human beings are social by nature. No one can go through the journey of life alone. Indeed, most prefer to live under a social system of one kind or another. If people were not born into an existing social system, they would try to create one, a system that aims at producing balanced individuals and a stable society. Saints do not interfere in these social structures or in our modes of living. They advise us that we are first and foremost human beings, regardless of social divisions. we should love all our fellow beings and inculcate within ourselves qualities of kindness, honesty, and compassion for all creatures. Although it is our bodies that make us human, it is our conduct that should exemplify the glory of humanity. According to Kabir, our souls are of the divine essence. Knowing that, we should radiate spirituality and preserve our heritage as spiritual beings. God is within us and we are in Him. Human beings are hidden repositories of all the secrets of God's splendour, mirrors that reflect the light of God's perfection because our souls have their origin in God Himself. A Persian mystic says, "You are the image of God, for God is your very soul. Bereft of that soul, how can the mere body be called a human being?" Kabir says, "It is God who speaks through the body. How can the body speak without God?" If we were all to experience the reality of God within ourselves and become God-conscious beings in practice, this world would become the land of purity, a true reflection of the real home of truth, Sachkhand. There would then be no false pride, narrow-mindedness, jealousy and hatred in society. People would no longer be driven by their brutal nature, nor be governed by evil tendencies. Theft, violence and repression would be foreign to their thinking. There would be no high-handedness, no encroachment on the rights of others, no laws, no law enforcement agencies and no punishment. In such a society, people would be governed by God's command, and thus the world could become the land of the truly pure. Seeking perfection. There is but one objective for every human being to fulfill, that of becoming a perfect individual. According to spiritually enlightened people, we can only become perfect by being one with God, the perfect being. According to the Bible, Jesus says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." Paul says, "For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power." Love and reverence for a spiritually elevated individual are praised and recommended in all religions, because such beings, having surrendered themselves to God, are one with God. They come to the world to place before humanity the ideal of perfection through oneness with Him. It is written in the Gita that there is an inverted tree with roots in spiritual planes and branches projecting downwards towards the earth. Footnote: Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, Song of the Lord, a scriptural text on Hindu philosophy that takes the form of a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield. End footnote. Human beings, in a similar manner, have their roots in God, although their bodies operate on earth. The source of their outward consciousness lies hidden within their inner being. Their consciousness is, in a way, both hidden and evident. In order to evolve spiritually, they must strive to withdraw the evident aspect of this consciousness from the mind and senses and retrace it to its hidden inner source. God-conscious persons have been coming in every age to place certain ideals before the world. For example, all the masters in the line of Guru Nanak placed before humanity the universal ideal of discipleship, selfless service to humanity, devotion to God, and love for all creatures. Those who follow this ideal are dyed in God's colour. It instills life in dead hearts, supports good against evil, and frees us from religious bias. It was created as a living manifestation of the wonderful, exalted image of God, who is beyond perception. In Islam, as well as in Christianity, an ideal follower of the faith is a person who possesses qualities similar to those mentioned above. In the West, the ideal of Puritanism was based on faithful adherence to the teachings of Christ. There have been numerous advanced souls who brought to the world this ideal of the perfection of the individual. One can see this in a composition by an Indian poet, Allama Iqbal, addressed to Moses. You went to Mount Sinai, begging for a glimpse of the Lord, because you were unaware of your own self. You should instead search for the real man, for God himself is in search of the real man. One can see these noble sentiments echoed by secular leaders as well. For example, John Ruskin, a profound thinker and social critic of 19th century England, emphasized the distinction between the wealth of riches and the wealth of happiness, commenting, "There is no wealth but life. Life including all its powers of love, of joy, and of admiration. That country is the richest, which nourishes the greatest number of noble and happy human beings. That man is the richest, who, having perfected the functions of his own life in the utmost, has also the widest helpful influence, both personal and by means of his possessions, over the lives of others." It is people like John Ruskin who become instrumental in improving the general human condition. The value of worldly things bears no comparison to the inner richness of such individuals. The need for spirituality. The world of today is characterized by tension, worry, and anxiety. Apart from realized souls, no one is free from their impact, no matter what our walk of life. The notable absence of harmony in modern life comes from the spiritual bankruptcy of a society thrown into chaos by people whose souls are in distress. In recent history, humanity has made great strides in all spheres of material activity. People have explored the earth, water, air, and outer space, but they have failed to explore their inner being and improve their spiritual lot. Rumi says, "The basis of all learning is simply that in the end you know who you are. You may know the value of everything around you, but if you know not your own value, you remain an ignorant fool." People acquire knowledge of all kinds, but remain ignorant of their soul, which is not only the basis of all knowledge, but the life that activates the body, mind, and intellect. Real ignorance comes from not knowing one's own self. Christ says in the Bible, "For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" Not knowing our own soul and being separated from our source cause the constant strife that goes on within individuals. This then results in social unrest as people forget the ideal of the oneness of God and kinship among all their fellow beings. Discord among individuals, families, communities and nations then follows, throwing the whole world into turmoil. Neither religious sermons nor other means of persuasion or restraint are able to bring about mutual harmony. Spirituality needs to be preached anew so that humanity may be pulled out of its dire situation. The need for a spiritual way of life must be emphasized so that societies which are engulfed in strife can be liberated from egoism, violence, and pain. society is becoming polarized, caught between modern trends on the one hand and the demands of religious orthodoxy on the other. Preachers and social reformers, instead of solving these problems, promote dogma and blind faith, thereby dividing people with their own narrow ideologies. Those who believe in the eat, drink, and be merry way of life question the need to seek God in the first place. They see only the shell, not the kernel. If they could but taste the kernel, they would realize that the essence is inside the shell, and the shell has no purpose other than to protect that essence. The shell itself can neither be relished nor digested. We are really in search of God, but our over-involvement with the outside world has concealed him from our view. Farid Uddin Attar says, "O seekers of God, you have lost him in the ocean, in the waves of your own passions." In such times, saints draw our attention to reality and point to the natural path that God has himself placed within every person since the beginning of time. They remind us that there is a creator of this universe and that all religions encourage realization of the creator alone. True religion is concerned only with how to know and find God. In fact, the word religion is derived from the Latin ligare, meaning to bind or unite. The meaning of religion, to reunite with God, is contained in the term itself. This spiritual heritage is common to all. Therefore, anyone who reunites his soul with God is a true believer, a true Hindu, Muslim, Sikh or Christian, a true devotee. Saints tell us that God is to be found in the temple of the human body. Indeed, God and the soul both live in this body, but they are separated by our ego. Guru Arjan says that they live together in the same house, yet they have never met nor talked with each other. Guru Arjan further compares the situation to a husband and wife who cannot achieve union because only the husband is awake. The same one bed is spread for the bride and her bridegroom. The bride is asleep and the groom is ever awake. Simply put, to follow the path to God, one has neither to convert to another religion nor change one's lifestyle, because the path to God is the same in all human beings. Religion, what it is, what it ought to be. Instead of concerning itself with spiritual truths, religion today has become an exercise in the reading and recitation of scriptures and tales from the past. It has become limited to research into the lives and works of earlier mystics, probing issues such as whether or not their scriptures were divinely inspired, and entering into discussions on the relative status of religions and their founders. Some researchers are preoccupied with relating new philosophies to ancient ones, while others attempt to prove the authenticity and superiority of their particular religion. People who claim to follow religion generally derive satisfaction from their adherence to traditional rituals and ceremonies. But old coins, despite their historic value and significance, must be recast into modern coins before they acquire purchase value. It is important that instead of preaching dogma to the modern generation or initiating them into senseless rituals, we place before them the intrinsic values that form the basis of spirituality. Strife, intolerance, and animosity among religions are not due to the teachings of their respective founders, but to the ignorance, selfishness, and prejudicial outlook of their followers, who preach that salvation may be attained only through faith in the founder of their particular sect or religion. In this narrow approach, the truth that real worship means uniting one's soul with God is completely forgotten. Religion, in fact, ought to be the vehicle for one's journey towards God and ultimately finding new life in Him. But the approach of most organized religions is limited to prescribing a distinctive apparel, following certain rituals and ceremonies established by the priests, and reciting set mantras with specified pronunciation. Saints tell us, and the scriptures of various religions clearly testify, that the kingdom of God is within us. But due to a scarcity of spiritually enlightened people, religions have become confined to externalized ceremonial forms of worship. Our religions do not help us overcome the common affliction of our mental energy becoming dissipated as a result of our thoughts spreading out into the world. They generally advise us to worship some holy person from the past, such as Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Rama, Kabir, or Guru Nanak. But they do not tell us how those holy people reached enlightenment, nor do they suggest how we can become one with that reality. Religions emphasize the sanctity of their particular scriptures, but do not tell us how we can experience the truths described in those scriptures. They tell us about crossing this ocean of life, and even talk about the ship that can take us across, but they do not help us board that ship. In fact, they do not know the way across and are ill-equipped to lead their followers on this inner voyage, much less help them surmount the hardships of that voyage. The rituals and ceremonies that predominate in most religions are without spiritual benefit. All worship is futile if it does not help us consciously attach our souls to God and absorb His power and qualities within. The Lord is the unbounded ocean of bliss and tranquility. Unless we cultivate that peace and tranquility within, we cannot possibly attune ourselves to Shabad, the melody through which we merge in that voice of silence. This silence is real and permanent and can only be experienced within by the soul. It is beyond the range of mind and intellect. Guru Nanak says, by pondering, man cannot have a conception of God, even though he may ponder over lakhs of time. Footnote, lakh, 100,000, here meaning 100,000 years. End footnote. God cannot be perceived in the same way as we perceive a physical object. We can only see Him within ourselves, beyond the veils of the astral and causal planes, through our subtler faculties. Footnote, astral and causal planes. The two planes immediately beyond the physical plane, through which the soul travels in its journey back to God. During the soul's journey through these higher planes, its coverings become finer and finer till they are finally eliminated. End footnote. Guru Nanak says, great is the Lord and high His seat. His name is higher than the high. If anyone be as great and high as He is, then alone would he know that lofty being. We can only reach this height through devotion and love, not through thought and reason, because God realization is a pursuit beyond the ken of intellect and reason. As stated earlier, intellect is a barrier to our higher sensibilities. Unless we transcend this barrier, we will never reach the regions of pure consciousness, nor realize God. The path of spirituality. Spirituality is the path of soul, surat and shabad, the inner experience of God by soul consciousness, God being manifest in the creation as the all-pervading Shabad. It is called Santmat, the teachings or path of the masters, the path that imparts the intrinsic principles of spirituality. It is beyond the capability of religions to offer this experience, because religions are confined to rituals, theories, institutionalized beliefs, accounts of miracles, and so forth. Spirituality is true science. It does not call for blind faith. In whatever age people have practiced it, the results have been the same, like a mathematical calculation. The sole purpose of a spiritual science is to free ourselves from the coverings of matter. Only then can we recognize our identity as a conscious being or a soul, and see the soul as a drop of the ocean of superconsciousness. As the soul merges with God, it acquires the characteristics of God, just as a drop merging with the ocean acquires the characteristics of the ocean. This task of detaching ourselves from the creation and attaching ourselves to the Creator is a task that we have not been able to accomplish for millions of years, but it can be easily completed with the help of a saint who teaches the simple method of Surat Shabad Yoga, the joining Yog of soul, Surat, and word, Shabad. This easy and natural path can be followed by all people, be they from the east, west, north or south, rich or poor, high or low, literate or illiterate, for the path is the same for all human beings. The practice of Surat Shabad Yoga bestows eternal life and bliss. Like all other blessings of God, it is simple and natural for the individual who follows it with care and understanding, but hard for the undiscriminating. Saints are the boatmen who take souls across this ocean of phenomena. They are fully responsible for uniting the souls of their disciples with God, in whom we have our origin and towards whom we always feel a natural affinity. Rumi says, "The soul, which is a bird of godly qualities, is encaged in the body and seeks deliverance. It has come down from its divine source to discharge its earthly obligations, but its attention is always drawn to its origin." Saints, who are one with God and above sectarian ties, provide guidance and benefit for all, not just members of a particular religion or community. Their invaluable expositions on the practice of joining the soul with the word, Surat Shabad Yoga, are preserved in various scriptures which constitute a common heritage for all humanity. Ravidas says, "The Lord accepts none but those who love him. The smokescreen of attachment is cast over the world. Only a devotee is kept free of this affliction." The precious sayings of the Gurus are enshrined in the Adi Granth. Philosophy of the Masters is a humble attempt to place that great heritage before the reader. Footnote: my submission is the Introduction to Philosophy of the Masters, presently published in English in several volumes. End footnote. Guru Arjan says, "When I opened and saw the treasure of my father and grandfather, my soul then became immensely pleased." Surat Shabad Yoga is the means by which a soul can experience reality. Its practice is an attempt to effect direct communion between human beings and God. The Master explains the details of this practice and puts the disciple on this path at the time of initiation. This science has been devised by God Himself and is as old as humanity. In short, philosophy of the masters is an attempt to persuade us to wake up to the emptiness of life, find a real master, whatever it takes and wherever our search takes us, and seek refuge in him. From him, we will learn to tread a path which is narrower than a razor's edge, a path on which love for the physical must be sacrificed for the love of God. A real master will not simply preach about or point to the path that will lead us from untruth to truth, but will actually accompany us on our journey through the higher regions of spirit. Guru Nanak says that only those who travel with us as we go through life are our friends, and they alone will stand by us when the account of our deeds is called for. Rumi says, "He will be with you in this world and the next, so that you may not stray off the path." Guru Arjan says, "Nanak, break thou with the false and seek the saints, who are the true friends. They, the false, shall leave thee while alive, and they, the saints, shall forsake thee not, even when dead." Our soul has come from regions beyond time and space. In the company of mystics, we can reawaken our soul to the reality of God. In fact, all our woes in life are due to our separation from Him. We can only become truly happy by reuniting our souls with Him. Mystics are our true guides. We can learn from them the method to attain inner peace and equanimity and return to the source of all light. The path of the mystics is a natural, sure and unfailing way to God, as it was placed within all human beings at the time of their creation. It has never changed, nor can anyone alter, improve or modify it, since it has been designed by God Himself. All true masters, saints and other advanced souls who are one with the Lord have always given this very teaching. It is a natural path which everyone can individually experience within. Most important, as stated earlier, we need not accept it on blind faith, since it is experienced and verified within our own self. Religion and sectarianism. Ordinarily, for most people, rituals and ceremonies are more important than God. Those who place faith in scriptures and the saints of the past are thought to be religious. In reality, this is not religion. It is sectarianism, which acts as a parasite upon true religion, destroying its spirit. Like a rogue elephant, it destroys the very fortress that shelters it and which it claims to guard and protect. It monopolizes religion and presents it as nothing but a bundle of external rituals and observances. It promotes caste and class systems and turns people away from reality. Its priests recommend the performance of these rituals as the means as well as the end of faith and consider everything else blasphemous. Every religion starts as a proponent of spiritual freedom, but eventually becomes a prison house for genuine spiritual aspirants. They can no longer think or understand beyond its narrow bounds. Faith is limited to certain holy people and scriptures of the past. Hatred is promoted for all others. This leads to the mental and moral slavery of its adherents. It clouds their vision through narrow-mindedness and religious bias. People thus build walls around themselves and then find themselves trapped, unable to see beyond the walls, like a frog in a well. The founders of religions started certain traditions that were based on their love for God and rooted in detachment from the world and freedom of worship. In most cases, these very traditions later become the cause of religious strife, with dissenting factions within the same religion torn by conflicts. Such factions are far removed from the concept of a true universal religion. The purpose of human life is to love God, love all His creatures, and become absorbed in the bliss of His remembrance. Instead, distant from God and bereft of love, people start hating one another. Religious leaders, who ought to be turning our attention to God, themselves turn their back on God and give themselves up to the world. Hazrat Bu Ali Qalandar defines worldliness like this: know that being worldly is to turn one's heart away from God, to love anything other than God, to listen to anything other than His praises. People whose eyes are open to the realities of religion prefer to stay away from the so-called religious places. Bulle Shah says, robbers live in dharmsalas, thugs in temples. Mosques abound with cheats, so lovers stay aloof. Therefore, one should become a lover of God. Anyone who wants to find true spirituality and the essence of scriptural teachings must turn away from organized religion and its preachers and try to find the Lord within themselves. Bu Ali Qalandar says, if you want to get to the essence of the preacher's sermons, you should sever your connections with this world and its religions. Spirituality as the basis of religion. When people feel that life is not fulfilling and complete in itself, they start looking for clues to understand its mysteries. They first start to wonder whether there might not be another power or being upon whom their existence depends. Later on, they want to know the nature of that power or being. Motivated by such genuine religious interest, they are no longer concerned with external ritualistic creeds and religions, nor do they consider the organization and laws of religion to be spiritually valid or complete. They are in search of that reality which is hidden in the hearts of all people, rich and poor, in religious leaders as well as in people on the street. One can see its sublime reflection only in the face of a person fully absorbed in prayer and contemplation. Once the likelihood of the existence of such a great power becomes evident to them, they realize they must strive to know themselves, which is a prelude to knowing that power. Ordinarily, people equate participation in rituals and the adoption of a certain external mode of life with religious pursuits. But spirituality is a condition of the soul. True religion entails discovering the nature of the soul and merging soul with God, who is the source of all life. It entailed freeing the soul by removing the physical, astral and causal coverings that keep it bound to this material creation. Once the soul has shed these coverings in Par Brahm, it shines in its own glory, ready to merge back into the ocean of eternal bliss. Footnote: Par Brahm, beyond, Par Brahm, a vast realm that includes Sun, the third region, and Mahasun, Sun's higher reaches. End footnote. The scope of intellect. Spirituality is the core of religion and is attained only through inner revelation. Saints come to impart knowledge of this inner religion to the world. Normally, people do not know about it, even though it is the sustaining power of their lives. One cannot have an inkling of it until the intellect and senses are made still, because the faculty within us that comprehends this truth is far subtler than either the mind or the senses, and hence beyond their grasp. Trying to comprehend God intellectually is like trying to quench one's thirst with wine. Guru Nanak says, by pondering, man cannot have a conception of God, even though he may ponder over lakhs of time. Man may possess thousands and lakhs of wits, but not even one goes with him or avails him in the Lord's court. It is said that when writing his book De Trinitate, of the Trinity, St. Augustine was once sitting on a beach. He saw a small child filling a shell with water and pouring that water down a hole he had made in the sand. When St. Augustine asked why he was doing this, the child replied that he was going to empty the ocean into the hole. St. Augustine laughed and said that he was wasting his time because oceans were not emptied that way. The child replied that emptying the ocean that way might indeed be a waste of time, but certainly no more futile than trying to understand God with the intellect. Spirituality as actual experience. God is the power that gives us the capacity for knowledge and understanding. Saints emphasize the importance of the relationship between the soul and God and teach a practical method through which that relationship can be verified by actual experience. Through inner eyes we see His light, and through inner ears we hear His voice. This experience establishes faith and brings bliss and fulfillment to life. It inspires us towards service of the entire creation, since we then begin to see the Lord in everyone and everything. This experience can be had here and now. What guarantee is there that we will have it after death, as organized religion would have us believe? Henri Bergson, a French philosopher, refers to open religion as against closed religions, which are centres of rituals and ceremonies. According to him, all this talk about reward after death is merely playing with words. There is need for practical or open religion, salvation during life, so that by bathing in its waves within ourselves, we may get new life and be blessed. He further asserts that the Lord and spirituality do not belong exclusively to any one creed. Aspects of body, mind, and soul. All human beings are made up of body, mind, and soul, and they can accordingly choose to explore their physical, mental, or spiritual potentialities. For example, one with a spiritual disposition will be able to enjoy many spiritual experiences that the more intellectually inclined will be deprived of. The various aspects of the body and mind can be broken down as follows. The physical body has 10 devices through which it functions. The 5 karm indriyas, through which actions are performed, hands, feet, tongue, speech, and the 2 lower indriyas. The 5 gyan indriyas, through which knowledge is gained, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, taste, and skin. The mind operates through 4 instruments: Chit, thinking, memory, and attention; Man, comprehension, analysis, and judgment; Buddhi, the power of discrimination and decision-making; Ahankar, ego and determination, the power that puts decisions into operation. These aspects of the mind relate to intellect, comprehension, discrimination, and cognition respectively, and together lead to knowledge. Actions are performed by the body, discrimination is exercised by the mind, and contemplative bliss is experienced by the soul. If body, mind and soul operate in harmony and balance, the result is peace, happiness and an ideal life. Training and exercise through action, knowledge and contemplation can work wonders in the development of the human being. We all know that those who exercise and train their body to become world-class athletes or bodybuilders will be admired by thousands. And those who train their mind to become mentally proficient acquire wisdom through learning and can make a lasting impression on many more. Yet those who elevate their soul through spiritual practice leave the most profound impression. They radiate such happiness that they stand out among millions. Attention and contemplation are instruments of the soul, and their proper application brings about inner concentration. This concentration aids the surat, the hearing faculty of the soul, in listening to the inner melodies. Some scriptures call this practice of listening with the soul's attention singing the praises of God, while others describe it as singing the divine melody with inner attention. This melody, better known as Shabad, has a natural attraction for the soul and serves to still the mind. The secret of this practice, called Surat Shabad Yoga, can only be obtained from a living master. Inner and outer religion. While science deals with the material world and religion prescribes an external mode of living, spirituality confines itself to the attainment of the spiritual regions within. It is a science of realizing the truth within oneself and finally the act of merging with it. This spiritual science, known as Sant Mat, is thus a practical method of spiritual transformation. It is based on revelation through inner evolvement. It should be emphasized that the path of the saints is not the accumulation of intellectual knowledge, but the awakening and subsequent merging of the soul into the perfect being. A true spiritual way of life enlightens the soul and leads to inner peace and bliss. Anyone who experiences it will always feel God's presence within. This kind of experience is beyond the grasp of reason, although it is not contrary to it. Even those people who have realized God fail to describe him adequately because he is beyond description and cannot be seen with external eyes. He can only be experienced in complete silence. Orations, philosophical discussions, and argument only serve to keep him far away. His light descends on the soul as divine revelation, but our over-involvement with outside knowledge has blinded us to it. We are so engrossed with external knowledge that we have become totally unaware of the truth. How strange that we seek relief from physical disorders but do little to correct the negative, downward tendencies of the mind. We largely waste our lives in eating and drinking without making any effort to know ourselves and the Supreme Lord. When we are so engrossed in external things, how can we possibly see or love the Lord who is within us? Guru Arjan says, "The mortal contracts love with what he sees. How can I meet thee, whom I see not, O my imperishable Lord?" We can find the Lord by meeting a master who enables us to gain entry into that inner self which contains the treasure of bliss. The Lord pervades the universe in the form of Shabad or Naam, but we cannot hear the Shabad unless we dissociate ourselves from the external noises of the world and attach ourselves to the wondrous sounds and sights within. As far as the perception of God is concerned, lifeless indeed are they who only rely on external eyes to see and external ears to hear. Guru Angad says, to see without eyes, to hear without ears, to walk without feet, to work without hands, and to speak without tongue. Like this, one remains dead whilst alive. O Nanak, then does the mortal meet his spouse by recognizing his will. Tulsidas says, he walks without feet, he hears without ears, and without hands he performs various deeds. Our foremost duty is to know ourselves. To accomplish this in a spiritual sense, we must prevent our attention from straying by holding it still in the silence within. Anyone who succeeds at that will be able to bring about the union of his soul with God, the primary objective of spirituality. Great souls throughout history have all affirmed this. Lord Buddha said that the heights of spirituality could only be gained inside. Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven is within. To embark on the inner journey, one need not give up one's vocation or switch from one religion or caste to another. But one does need a perfect living master who can teach the correct method and guide one internally. Guru Arjan says, by meeting the true Guru, man comes to know the perfect way. While laughing, playing, dressing and eating, he gets emancipated. People who have made spiritual progress need not look for the solitude of forests and caves. They have found serenity in the stillness of their own minds. They can be poised amidst boisterous crowds because they can, at will, retire into that inner solitude. No outside peace can match the inner tranquility, for what enduring peace can a brook or grove bring when the mind is not calm? There are two aspects of religion, social and spiritual. A social religion aims at the support and promotion of a particular group or class. Its functions include the formulation of social rules, the upkeep of historic memorials, the celebration of anniversaries and special days, and the holding of congregational services. Spirituality, on the other hand, aims strictly at people's spiritual well-being. Its concern is the soul and its inherent relationship with God, and its objective is to improve the soul's condition and help it secure release from earthly ties, so it may experience God and become fit to merge in Him in this very life. Human beings are inherently social, but what few realize is that the welfare of society depends on spiritual consciousness. Just as the real value of the body lies in the soul that inhabits it, so also can the true worth of a society be measured by the spiritual health of its members. When spirituality is missing, selfishness and prejudice predominate, resulting in animosity, strife, and intolerance among differing sects and religions. The path of the masters is solely spiritual. Although true masters may belong to a particular social order, their main objective is to awaken indolent souls through the practice of Surat Shabad Yoga, so they stay clear of sectarian wranglings and religious discord. They neither create new religions nor demolish the existing ones. In today's world, there is no dearth of social religions, but faiths with a genuine spiritual function are rare. It is imperative for any true seeker to know the difference between them before choosing one or the other. Once one has adopted the right course and knows what is real, it is of little consequence whether one lives as a householder or a recluse. The spiritual teachings of Surat Shabad Yoga once formed the basis of most religions, but they have been gradually replaced to the point of near extinction by external observances. These teachings are neither dependent on a particular scripture nor confined to a set of prescribed rituals. They are concerned only with the training of the soul, the process of dyeing the soul in the colour of spirituality. This cannot be learnt from books, nor acquired through formal training. It is only accomplished through the grace of a master. The spiritual colour imbibed by the soul of a Surat Shabd practitioner leads to absorption in God. The soul consciousness becomes stabilized, no longer permitting any distractions by Gal and Maya to disturb its poise. It goes without saying that the teachings of the saints cannot be obtained through formal education. If we look at the lives of saints, we discover that their greatness lies in their mastery of a spiritual knowledge unobtainable from a classroom setting. All mystics give the same teaching and believe in the same principles, regardless of the religion or country of their birth. They do not involve their disciples in intricate rituals. They use their knowledge to unite souls with God. Their mission never involves separating souls from Him. Maulana Rum says in his Masnavi that when Moses broke the heart of a lover, God admonished him, saying, "You came down to unite, not to sever." Finally, it is important to mention that like the sun, air, water, and all other blessings of God, the teachings of the saints are free of charge. Science and religion. Scientists generally believe that religion is nothing but a bundle of superstitions, and that people can live without it as easily as they do with it. Some, sharing this belief, have even called it the opiate of the people. Believers in religion, on the other hand, accuse science of inventing diabolical devices and lethal weapons to destroy peace on earth. Scientists do believe that there is a mind within us that decides and regulates the movements of the body. They feel that if we take good care of the mind, the soul, if there is such a thing, will look after itself. Their faith in the soul and God is, to put it charitably, half-hearted. According to mystics, the soul is a real entity encaged in a physical body and entrapped by a restless mind. They know from personal experience that the real aim of life is to deliver the soul from this bondage and reunite it with the Lord, thus bringing about its salvation. Different people have different concepts of salvation. Some view it as transformation into an immobile, rock-like state, while others compare it to the merging of a drop into the ocean, or of the soul's light merging into the light of God. In actual fact, salvation is the release of the soul from the bondage that keeps it tied to the mind and body. To become released in this manner while still living in the world is the salvation bestowed by the saints. It is called Jivan Mukti, or liberation while alive. The first step in spirituality is devotion to a master, which leads to liberation during one's life through the practice of Naam. True salvation occurs when the soul reaches its own true home, which, in the words of Hafiz, is our real heritage. All living beings, including humans, are constantly influenced by their inner condition as well as their outer environment. As long as there is harmony between our environment and our expectations, we are happy and at peace. When the two are out of alignment, the result is unhappiness and discord. Experience demonstrates that the two conditions are in a state of constant flux, with the result that agreeable situations never last very long. We try to restore this inner balance and harmony in two ways. Partly by controlling the outer environment, and partly by controlling our inner urges and remoulding our expectations so that the ever-changing outer conditions do not continue to disturb our inner poise. If we seriously consider the benefits and limitations of both science and religion, there is ample ground to reconcile the two. Science deals with material objects that can be physically manipulated and have shape, size, mass, weight, and so on. Whatever we experience with our senses and can describe in objective terms, and whatever external factors affect our emotions and our lives in general, from electrons to stars and planets, come under the general heading of science. Outer change results from external causes, including the scientific or technological manipulation of the environment, while inner adjustment is based on a religious approach. Scientific experiments can be conducted and the same results repeatedly verified with readily available materials. Scientific inventions which have revolutionized modern life are all around us, and that speaks for the popularity of science. An endless chain of future experiments will continue, and life will remain under perpetual change. Inner worlds, on the other hand, are entirely different. They are extremely wonderful, but are not easily accessible because they can neither be perceived through the senses nor understood through the intellect. Religion, therefore, relies on the testimony of those advanced souls who purified themselves through self-discipline, realized the truth and enjoyed its bliss. The source of all bliss and happiness through which one overcomes inner obstacles is within. Once someone has discovered this inner treasure, his happiness is guaranteed forever, even if he is without a roof over his head. It should be noted, however, that the path of spirituality is not without certain dangers and handicaps. After the departure of the saints, their teachings are manipulated, distorted, and misrepresented by vested interests. Due to their highly personal nature, the experiences of mystics cannot be related to others through the customary channels of communication, and people can neither verify nor use them like a radio, aircraft, or other inventions of science. To gain the inner capabilities of a saint, seekers have to follow his instructions. In order to experiment with the truth that mystics have realized within themselves, seekers must enter their own body, the laboratory in which the teachings of mystics are experienced and verified. Inner truth is not a collective, but an individual realization which each soul must have for itself. Spirituality is essentially a personal experience. The spiritual truths that make up the life and substance of religion do not depend upon religious establishments, impressive temples, or scriptures. Their proof is provided by the various living masters who have experimented with the supreme essence and are in constant communion with it. To those people who have gained this experience with the perfect being, everything else appears imperfect and deficient. Like scientific experiments, spiritual experiences are attained through precise, specified techniques. Just as clean scientific apparatus protected from environmental contamination is crucial to the success of any scientific experiment, so also should spiritual aspirants purify their heart, be detached from the world, and exercise self-control in the face of temptation. Having achieved this, they can successfully enter the laboratory of their body, shut all the windows against worldly distractions, and start the experiment with full concentration. Idolatry or worship of God. A human being is the combination of a soul, a conscious though invisible entity, and a physical body, which is gross matter. The material part of the body is subject to organic laws, while its conscious part, the mind included, is subject to laws that generally apply to sentient beings. These laws account for our tendencies towards self-preservation and comfort-seeking. As long as we are imprisoned in bodies and subject to these laws, we are subject to anguish, pain, and anxiety. Physical life is all misery, as the Buddha says. Kabir observes, I have never seen anyone happy while being in the body. When we rise above the body and establish connection with our essence, we will become the embodiment of peace and happiness. Spending most of our time on the upkeep, washing, cleaning, and decoration of the body is real idolatry. Any efforts made to cleanse and beautify the soul with a view to making it worthy to unite with the Lord are steps towards the worship of the Lord. As we are sadly neglectful of the soul, its evolution must now take priority over the requirements of the body. We must remember that the body is, after all, only a temporary abode for the soul. Of what use is the painting and decoration of the residence when its owner lies unconscious due to hunger and deprivation? Forgetting our true nature, we have become so absorbed in our love for this house that we identify ourselves with its walls and ceilings. The resident has, through love and association, assumed the rigid form of the residence. But in order for us to fully realize the value of the residence, we must concentrate on beautifying its owner. The house by itself is a losing proposition. It is bound to deteriorate with time and ultimately crumble into dust. We can, however, use this body to our utmost advantage if, in accordance with a master's instructions, we concentrate our attention at the eye center and establish contact with God. Guru Arjan says, let someone unite me with God. I cling to his feet. With my tongue utter sweet words and make an offering of my very life. What would be the result of this concentration? Imbued with the colour of God, the soul would become spiritually inclined. This occurs naturally when we give more importance to nourishing the soul than the body. To do this properly, it is vitally important to attend satsang, which means the companionship of truth or the company of a living master whose own soul is awakened in God. Through his benign grace, we hasten the connection of the current of our soul with the Almighty. Only that body is beautiful in which the soul is in permanent communion with God. The true Lord being her spouse, she has become the eternally blessed wife. Guru Amar Das says, very beauteous is the body bride, with whom abides her darling spouse. Cherishing the Guru's Shabad, she becomes the happy bride of her true love forever. Once that union has taken place, it matters little whether the body lives on or perishes. But knowledge of the inner secrets of the body can only be obtained by strictly following the Master's instructions. It cannot be acquired through intellect and reasoning. It is a gift from God, and He grants it to whomever He pleases. Guru Amar Das says, he who turns Guruward searches his body. All others are gone astray in doubt. He to whom the Lord gives, that man alone obtains a name. What other cleverness can be of any avail? That body which serves the true Guru, the true Master himself embellishes. Without the name, man finds not refuge in the Lord's court, and Yama distresses him. Nanak, he on whom the Lord takes pity obtains the true glory. Footnote: Yama, the Lord of Death, who takes charge of the uninitiated soul at the time of death. End footnote. The model religion. The long-cherished idea of a new, universal religion, one based on the good qualities and practices of all religions, has never been translated into practice. Why? The problem revolves around which modes of religious life to adopt and which ones to discard. Besides, people also differ in thought and temperament, and then everybody considers his own religion the best. Differences of opinion will always persist, and one will never succeed in getting everyone to follow a set line of thinking. Despite this, human beings share a common heritage and are tied together with an unbreakable divine bond. Barring superficial differences in customs, rituals, and so forth, the fundamentals of all religions are the same. The solution lies in presenting spirituality to the world as a science. While remaining within their respective religious traditions, people can be urged to carry out the experiment of uniting their souls with God, who lives within the laboratory of their bodies. What is religion, after all, if not the experiment of uniting the soul with God, of experiencing union with Him? Saints are those who have merged their souls with God. They recorded in books and scriptures whatever they experienced on the higher planes of existence. Kabir says, "Say not that the Vedas and Muslim books are false. False is he who reflects not on them." Another problem that stands in the way of the establishment of a model religion centers around personal conduct. Those who have experienced union with the Lord love all other beings like their own kith and kin. Know it for certain that anyone who preaches division and mutual animosity has not yet realized God. He is devoid of that inner, personal experience that constitutes true religion. Real religion is based on the soul's personal experience of God. Unless, with the help of a master, we realize within ourselves the experiences mentioned in the scriptures, we cannot call the religion we follow our religion. If we research different scriptures, we will find that the truths mentioned in them are the essence of the personal experiences of those saints with whom the various religions originated. They have given their teachings from a spiritual point of view, emphasizing the fact that we have within us something that does not undergo change as the body does. It is for all of us individually to develop our inner faculties and explore within ourselves that particular thing that neither changes nor dies. The purpose of human life is not to indulge in worldly pleasures, but to experience the truth that lies within. All religious books inspire us to explore and develop this inner spiritual life, and they mention the means by which we can imbibe within ourselves the qualities of that superconscious power. No earnest seeker would believe true religion to consist merely of rituals, dogmas, and superstitions, because serious followers of all faiths aim at realizing the one truth. There is no doubting the fact that there are thousands of religions and sects based on all kinds of external modes of religious life. But the single common factor that forms the basis of their teaching is the power of God, called the Word, Shabad, Naam, or Kalma. The only way a soul can attain union with God is through the practice of this Shabad or Word, through Surat Shabad Yoga, the union of soul and word. If we study the scriptures of religions with love and reverence and adopt this fundamental, common principle in our lives, we can put an end to religious strife. God is a never-ending book written in the unspoken language of love. Each of the scriptures, whether the Vedas, the Bible, the Quran, or the Adi Granth, constitutes a page in the book of God. More pages are being continually added. Still more are yet to come. We should hold in great reverence all those saints who have written these pages, as also those who will undoubtedly add to the existing treasure. In this age of gross materialism, It is heartening to learn that the idea of a universal religion is being promoted through meetings, conferences, and literature that open people's minds to an all-embracing reality and a common moral code. Clearly, the model religion of the future would have a spiritual foundation based on the soul's potential to experience God. People would be encouraged to live in their own social and religious environment, have love and reverence for all devotees and pure souls of the past and present, and develop a practical outlook on spirituality. This religion is of God's own making. It is His gift to humanity. It is as old as the creation. We only need to bring it into our lives. Levels of consciousness. How long will we be deluded by the outer shell of life, its form, colour and adornments, and fail to peer inside the picture of the body to discover the nectar that lies within? We all accept that the physical form is subject to decay and that only truth is permanent and everlasting. Yet we have grown so enamoured with the external form of existence that we have lost touch with reality. The shell has no value by itself. It is there to hold and protect something precious placed inside it. Let us explore the treasure that lies within. Let us obtain that pearl of great value. Fortunately for us, there are certain measures we can adopt to assist our spiritual development. We should study the scriptures, those treasuries of rare gems which the mystics have left for us. They contain the food to nourish and satisfy our mind and our soul. Guru Arjan says, "When I opened and saw the treasure of my father and grandfather, my soul then became immensely pleased." We have a body that is equipped with hands, feet, and precious organs. It is obvious that of all the organs, our eyes hold supremacy, which is why they are called the windows of the soul. They reveal our inner tranquility or turmoil. They subtly influence others with the thoughts and feelings hidden in our minds. They speak the language of silence. With just a glance, they can express the inexpressible. In the wakeful state, the mind and the soul operate from the seat behind the eyes. Even a blind person will concentrate at that point to think or answer questions. We experience dreams when the soul and the mind shift from behind the eyes to the throat center, and are in deepest sleep when they slip further down to the navel center. If we want to explore the mysteries that lie beyond the conscious state of the mind, we must strive to elevate our consciousness to a state higher than wakefulness. The path of the saints therefore leads the soul into states of higher consciousness within, starting from the eye center upwards. The process to accomplish this naturally leads to a discussion of the regions that the soul experiences on its journey within. The entire universe can be divided into 4 major planes: Pind, physical; And, astral; Brahmand, mental spiritual; Satlok, pure spiritual. The way to explore the creation and reach the Creator is within the physical body, Pind, because whatever lies in the universe outside also lies inside the human body. Pippa says, "He who is in the universe also abides in the body, and whoever seeks, he finds him there." Praise Pippa, the Lord is the supreme quintessence of all. When there is the true Guru, he revealeth him unto us. All creation up to Brahmand lies within the sphere of Brahm and is destroyed at the time of dissolution, Pralaya. All creation up to the threshold of Satlok is destroyed in grand dissolution, Mahapralaya. Satlok alone is an imperishable plane, beyond the reach of dissolution or grand dissolution. It is the original home of the true saints. It is the goal of the path of the saints. There are 6 major centres, chakras in Brahman, which are reflected in the 6 centres of And, and the 6 centres of And are further reflected in the 6 centres of Bind. At each of the centres, in descending order, the reflection is less pure and refined as befits the constitution of that centre. It is like the reflection of the sun in water. In this reflection, you see the shape of the sun, but cannot experience the intensity of its heat and light. If the sun is reflected off the water onto a wall, all you can see of the sun now is a blurred patch of diffuse light. Similarly, the 6 centres of Bind are only a reflection of the reflection. They are represented in the body as Muladhara Chakra, perineal centre, Indri Chakra or Swadhisthana, genital centre, Nabhi Chakra or Manipura, navel centre, Haridya Chakra or Anahata, heart centre, Kanth Chakra or Vishuddha, throat centre, Netra or Agya Chakra, eye centre. Yogis raise their consciousness by awakening the 6 chakras of the body. They start by cleansing the body through the processes of Neti, Doti and Vasti. Footnote: Neti, Doti and Vasti. Yogic purificatory exercises for internal cleansing. Neti is used to cleanse the nasal passages, Doti to cleanse the stomach, and Vasti to cleanse the lower intestines. End footnote. They then concentrate their attention first at the perineal centre and then at the navel centre in order to activate the Kundalini. Footnote: Kundalini, coiled energy situated at the base of the spine above the lowest centre, Muladhara Chakra. When activated, it unwinds like a serpent and rises up through the central canal of the spine, arousing supernatural powers. End footnote. Connecting the Kundalini with the spinal cord, they move up through the other chakras until they reach the Agya Chakra behind the eyes. These practices involve breath control exercises and other arduous methods which can be hazardous for a householder or a person of weak health. Concentration at the eye centre. Shabad masters do not therefore recommend breath control exercises, pranayama, as a feasible method and do not involve their disciples in its practice. Their method bypasses the 6 centres of the body because these centres are merely a reflection of the reflection of Brahman. They teach their disciples the method of concentrating the attention at the eye centre, which is the seat of the soul and mind in the body. If someone lovingly meditates on the Lord's name in accordance with his master's instructions, his attention will concentrate and in time light will appear at the eye focus. Mystics have often referred to this eye in their writings. Jesus says, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." Tulsi Sahib says, "There is a spot in the eye that holds the entire secret. If only you would remove the dark veil and look beyond." Muinuddin Chishti says, "Open your eyes so you can see the light of God. Close the doors of talking and listening so your whole being becomes an eye." Guru Nanak says, "There is a palace with 2 windows where Shiv and Shakti rule. Through the central window they appear in great splendour." Footnote: Shiv and Shakti, Purusha, the Supreme Being, and Prakriti, nature. End footnote. Kabir says, when the two dots of the eyes are joined into one, a great spectacle becomes visible. As Kabir Sahib indicates, the light within becomes visible when the two channels of energy behind the eyes combine into one. The concentrated soul, or surat, then proceeds through the sukmana, the royal vein, or sharag, as the Muslim saints call it, into the higher regions. Footnote: Sukmana, the central energy current in the finer body, which runs from the eye center into the higher inner regions. It should not be confused with the Shushmana of the yogis that runs up the spinal column and is associated with the physical energy centers or chakras. End footnote. Allah is found nearby through the Sharag, says Saim Bulle Shah. In the higher regions, the melody of Shabad, which pervades the entire creation, is clearly heard. By dwelling on this melody, the ineffable discourse of God, all desires are dissolved within the mind, and one overcomes one's ego. The inner journey. Once the soul has reached these higher regions through concentration, having crossed the spheres of the star, the sun, and the moon, it will establish itself there through contemplation on the radiant form of the Master. With the help of the Shabad melody, it will enjoy the beauty of the inner spiritual regions and finally reach its true home in Sachkhand. Anyone who has reached Sachkhand is considered a saint, regardless of his religion, caste, or nationality. Just as anyone who has completed his Master of Arts is entitled to the degree of MA, regardless of race or religion. The path of the Masters transcends religious or sectarian bonds. Broadly speaking, mystics are of two kinds. Sifli, those of a lower order who meditate on the 6 centers of Bind or the physical body below the eyes, and Ulvi, those of a higher order who operate above the eye center in the higher spiritual regions. Many mystics have catalogued their experiences on their upward journey. For example, Prophet Abraham said he crossed a star on his way up. Others have also confirmed the rising of this star in the inner sky. Guru Nanak, when inquiring how it is that the meteor that has risen in the sky can be seen with the physical eyes, answers that it is the Guru's Shabad that will show it to the disciple and bestow on him the perfect destiny. Tulsi Sahib says, a star is visible in the sky, wherein you can hear the unstruck melodies play. The Quran reveals that the Prophet Muhammad cleft the moon in twain, meaning that he rent the moon to make his way through into higher realms of the spirit. All mystics who go the way of the spirit cross within themselves the star, the sun, and the moon on their inner journey. Just as a king can single-handedly command millions, so does the Shabad command all souls, indeed the entire universe. The soul consciousness, Surat, might appear to be a small and insignificant entity, but it is a part of that great Shabad. If we control and develop the soul, we can move the entire universe with its force. Surat is the motive force behind every endeavour in life, be it business or education. This body, in fact, the entire creation, with its forests and habitations, hills and plains, deserts and meadows, suns, moons, and planets, owes its very existence to Shabad and Surat. We, in our ignorance, live our lives as if this body were the king and the Surat a menial attendant hardly worthy of our attention. In our short-sightedness, we are intent upon denying the reality of the soul and accept the body, a mere shadow, as real. Jesus also makes this point. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Footnote. In the 17th century, when the King James Version of the Bible was compiled, the word meat meant food. End footnote. It behoves us, therefore, to realize that all blessings will come to us if we give up the pleasures of the body and senses and take care of our soul. Indulgence in sensual pleasures is nothing short of spiritual suicide. A short parable may help explain why. Like Joseph, we have fallen into the well of the physical body. Placed inside this well is the hidden rope of Naam, the current of God's mercy, to help us extricate ourselves. We may catch hold of this rope and climb out of our confinement into a new world, which is presently obscured from our vision. Now we see nothing but things perishable. Were we to climb out, our inner eye would open, enabling us to see the everlasting worlds. Unlike lower animals who keep their heads low, close to the earth, humans have a higher line of vision. Thus endowed, we should look up and explore the higher regions of life. Rumi says, "See how a beast keeps its head pointed towards the earth. If you are really a man, point your head to the heavens." Rumi also says, "Unless one rises above the world of the senses, one remains ignorant of the hidden grandeur of life." Rumi further says, "When you free yourself from this narrow hole of the body, you will, without effort, enter a new world." Hafiz says, "You have not extricated yourself from the world of the senses. How can you tread the path of reality?" Saints call this phenomenon of rising above the world of the senses dying while living. The Vedantists describe it as the separation of the conscious from the unconscious, of the soul from gross material. Footnote. Vedantist, one who follows the philosophy of Vedanta, one of the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy, a monistic philosophy based on the Upanishads. Vedanta claims to be an exposition of the deepest truths contained in the Vedas, based on the experiences of those who gain knowledge of the highest order through deep contemplation. End footnote. The soul has penetrated every cell of the body. When the soul rises to the regions of spirit through the practice of Shabad as taught by a master, leaving the body behind, it experiences the astral, causal and spiritual regions before merging back into the Lord, like a drop returning to the ocean. Before finally becoming one with the Lord, the soul goes through the exhilarating experience of meeting the Lord face to face. Guru Ram Das says, "Through the Guru, he beholds with his eyes the unseen, unapproachable, unknowable and immaculate Lord." Guru Ram Das also says, "Nanak's Lord is fully pervading all. Here, there and everywhere he sees the Lord of the universe." Guru Arjan says, "Nanak's King is seen manifest everywhere." A Persian mystic says, "We should see our beloved with our secret eye and hear his voice with our hidden ear." The Supreme Lord is beyond description, beyond comprehension. He is neither light nor sound, neither one nor many. Saints call him limitless, but to attempt to describe him is to put limits on the limitless one. He is what he is. Guru Arjan says, "The Lord is limitless, but I can only describe him within limits. What do I know as to what he is like?" He is ineffable, as are the pure conscious forms of Agam, Alak and Satpurush, which he has created out of himself. Only the soul can experience the merciful, boundless Lord through Nirat, the faculty of seeing within. The soul thus communicates with Diyal, the merciful Lord, who has also been described by the saints as Akal, the timeless one. In this very form, the Lord creates millions of universes which come and go in their own time, but He Himself is eternal and beyond dissolution. A ray of light that emanated from Him created all the lower regions, which are a combination of consciousness and unconscious Maya, and which are destroyed in dissolution, Pralaya, or grand dissolution, Mahapralaya. Some of these regions have more consciousness, others have more Maya, while still others are somewhat evenly balanced. All these regions are governed by their respective lords, who receive their power from the one Lord, Satpurush. The higher the region, the greater the power, influence and light of the presiding Lord. During its ascent, the soul meets these lords according to its purity and elevation, until it is able to have the darshan of Satpurush himself. The term darshan implies that the soul at this stage is still separate from the Lord. Beyond that is the stage of pure consciousness, where Satpurush, the Lord and Master of all, abides in his unique formless form, which, needless to say, cannot be described in any language. On seeing him, the soul is so enthralled that it begins to merge in him like a drop merges in the ocean. Guru Arjan says, as water comes and gets blended with water, so does his light blend with the supreme light. Guru Arjan continues, as the ray blends with the sun and water becomes water, so merges the human light in the supreme light and becomes perfect. This is an indescribable state. Perhaps the best explanation is that no amount of explanation can give even the remotest hint of what it is like. It is simply wonderment, wonderment, and more wonderment. The spiritual laboratory. In order to begin the experiment involving the union of soul with God, we must enter the laboratory of the body, just as a student must go into a laboratory to conduct a scientific experiment. He closes the doors and windows so that the distracting street noise doesn't interfere with his concentration. The apparatus is neatly laid on the table and he starts his experiment according to the instructions of his teacher. He will succeed if he earnestly applies himself, if not on the very first attempt, then on the second or third. It is with similar resolution that a student of spiritual science has to enter the laboratory of the body, close off all attention to the outlets and open the door that leads inside. In other words, the experiment is the process of concentrating the soul consciousness, which permeates and enlivens every cell of the body at its own seat at the eye center, to the extent that all consciousness of the body should disappear. Let our teacher be always by our side through contemplation on his form, so that our mind may find a foothold at the point where the attention is focused. This accomplished, we are no longer the body, we are spirit, as is our master. Following his instructions, we can conduct the experiment of uniting our soul with the all-pervading Lord, who abides in the temple of the body in the form of the name, shabad, hidden voice, or inner music. Without a doubt, this is possible when the mind is pure. Prophet Muhammad says that the key to paradise is prayer, and the key to prayer is purification of the mind. He further says that purification is half of faith. The Bible says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Guru Nanak says that if the body becomes dirty, it can be washed with water, but the dirt of the mind can only be cleansed with the name. By washing with water, the dust of the besmeared hands, feet, and other parts of the body is removed. The garment polluted with urine, that is washed clean by applying soap. The soul defiled with sins, that is cleaned with the love of God's name. The question naturally arises as to how we can attach ourselves to the name. It can only be done by concentrating and attaching the currents of attention to the name. It is therefore incumbent upon the aspirant to rise above the senses by concentrating his attention at the eye centre and contacting the light within. Guru Arjan says, he keeps under his control the 10, 5 sensory and 5 motor organs. Within his mind, the divine light shines. This practical experience of uniting the soul with God is the ideal religion for all. It is mentioned in many scriptures that we can only experience God within ourselves. We need a perfect master, one who has mastered this path through the practical application of this religion to his own life, because it is only with his help that we can succeed in uniting our soul with God. Saints call such a perfect being a guru. So long as our soul has not had this uniquely blissful experience within, we cannot be said to really believe in the existence of God. Therefore, we should follow the advice of the saints, because they have attained God within themselves, and they relate to us what they have personally experienced. Guru Arjan says, hear thou the true tale of the saints. They say only that what they see with their eyes. What distinguishes the teachings of the saints from all others is that they encourage us to experience truth for ourselves instead of merely relying on someone else's testimony. Tulsi Sahib says, I shall only believe in the Satguru's words when I see God with my own eyes. Swamiji says, know yourself through your own personal experience. Do not simply rely on someone else's words. The true objective. Worldly people are engaged in frantic activity to seek pleasure and avoid pain, but find no success in their endeavours. Clear-thinking people, on the other hand, constantly keep their goal in view while they labour in the garden of life. If our goal is wrong or ill-defined, all our labour is lost, as every step taken in the wrong direction only leads us farther away from the goal. If, on the other hand, the goal is well conceived and our movement is in the right direction, even meagre effort will prove fruitful. It is therefore as counterproductive to labour out of blind impulse as it is imperative to work for a goal that is clear and well defined. Kabir says, if someone looks for the thing in the wrong place, how is he going to find it? A widespread restlessness prevails in the world because people go through life confused and without a clear goal in view. In order to discover the right objective, we must study the book of our own body, because it is the source of all other books and scriptures. This is so because the melodies of God's word descend within it. Human beings are the wonder of wonders, the real temple of God, if only one could open the inner eye to see. Rumi says, know that the body is like a bundle of hay under which flows the river of life. Although on the surface it appears little more than a speck of dust, on the inside it shines with the light of hundreds of suns. Guru Arjan says, everything is within the home, not even one is without. He who seeks without is lost in doubt. Internal and external knowledge. In the following stanzas, Maulana Rumi refers to internal knowledge, ilm sina, as opposed to external knowledge, ilm safina. No matter how far science and intellect may advance, knowledge based on them will always remain external. It is not intrinsic, hence of little value to us as far as our perception of reality goes. Maulana Rumi says, one person sees only 2 yards of the way ahead. Another can see both the worlds and the face of the king. Immeasurable is the difference between the two. Seek the collyrium. God best knows the secrets. Science simply explains the existing phenomena of nature, whereas inner knowledge enlivens the body and enlightens the soul. By understanding the principles of science and the behavior of matter, we can control the forces of nature. But we remain unaware of our own nature as long as we do not study the path of inner knowledge. If we did not have the eyes to see, we would live in total darkness, even if thousands of suns were shining. Unless we know our true selves, we really know nothing, even though we may keep trying to convince ourselves that we know everything. Intellectual knowledge can give us a better grasp of things around us, but cannot make us realize the real objective of our lives. A Persian mystic says, whatever you know is all foolishness. Whatever you see is the cause of bewilderment. Swamiji says, scholars and interpreters of the law are ignorant when compared with the masters of inner knowledge. Science explains the relationship between the various forms of matter in the universe, but is totally unaware of the creator of the universe. Needless to say, this kind of knowledge cannot illumine our lives with God's light. Real knowledge means knowing the power of God. That is what makes all other kinds of knowledge possible, and such knowledge brings about salvation. In the teachings of the Masters, the study of books and scriptures and discussions of an academic nature do not constitute knowledge. Saints derive their knowledge from the heart, the living knowledge that is imparted in every generation through the institution of the Guru or Master. Indian saints have called this knowledge Para Vidya, internal knowledge, because it is natural, having no external foundation. People have tried to put this knowledge into writing without any real success, simply because that condition is indescribable. Why? Because there is nothing in this material world with which inner experiences can be compared. Mystics, therefore, always advise seekers after truth to adopt the path of meditation and not get involved in academic discussions and intellectual cleverness. A family man named Shaunaka inquired of Rishi Angiras how he could gain the knowledge through which he could know all things. The Rishi explained that those who have realized Brahm divide knowledge into 2 categories. Para, internal, as experienced in the heart, and apara, external, as acquired through the sense organs. Apara Vidya, external knowledge, includes all the 4 Vedas, phonetics, religious rites, grammar, etymology, metrics and astrology, but it cannot bestow the experience of Brahm. Paravidya, on the other hand, is the one through which the eternal, indestructible Brahman is attained, and it is based on personal experience through practice. A major difference between the two kinds of knowledge is that one relies on intellectual discussion about the day-to-day material reality, whereas the other is the outcome of a living faith based on personal experience. Book knowledge cannot even be classified within the parameters of faith, because regardless of how great a scholar or expounder of scriptures you may be, this kind of knowledge cannot bring about a pronounced change in your life. Whoever has attained any real benefit in a particular field of experience has done so through practice. Swamiji says, the secret lies in practice, not in intellectual knowledge. If you abandon the path of intellect and adopt the path of practice, then alone will you attain the essence. The value of scriptures. Books and scriptures contain the personal observations and experiences of saints and other mystics during their journeys through the higher spiritual regions. They have put these experiences in writing for our guidance. We should regard them with respect, as they inspire us to adopt a spiritual way of life and to seek God. The saint's objective is simply to motivate us to open the book of our hearts. In order to derive full benefit from the thoughts and experiences of past saints, we should try to replicate those thoughts and experiences in our lives under the guidance of a living master. Of all these writings, the ones that have originated with saints of the highest order are of the greatest value, because those teachings have come down to us from God Himself, not from the mind and intellect. All other utterances are inadequate, incomplete. Addressing a disciple, Guru Nanak once said, "As the word of the Lord comes to me, so do I utter, O Lalo." Rumi says, "Indeed, that voice is from the King himself, although it comes from the lips of his devotee." For seekers after truth, the words of God-realized saints are worth more than gems and diamonds. The writings of holy people explain to us how we can explore our inner self and realize God. However, it cannot be emphasized enough that these writings cannot take us inside, nor can they unite our souls with God. People remain caught by book knowledge and make it the basis of their faith and the support of their lives. Goswami Tulsidas says, "For ages past, the soul has been entangled in this world. People don't give up the scriptures, they don't find relief. The Vedas and Puranas prescribe many ways, which instead of effecting their deliverance, entangle them further and further." Human beings were here before any religions or scriptures came into being, and many religions and scriptures have come and gone in the course of history. The human heart is the source of all scriptures, because all secrets lie buried in the heart. Books contain the descriptions of those secrets, not the secrets themselves. So long as we do not explore our heart with the help of a living master, we cannot unearth those secrets. People read the scriptures, even elucidate their essence, but are themselves devoid of that essence. Guru Nanak says, "One reads the Vedas, Puranas and other scriptures and expounds them without realizing their essence. Without a perfect master, none can obtain the essence, for one can only reach the truth by the right path." The difference between books and human beings is both obvious and striking. We are conscious beings. Books are insentient. We can think about our past and future. Books can't. We know that we have a certain amount of knowledge. A book is not aware that it knows nothing. So long as we do not have knowledge of what lies within us, we live in total ignorance. Book knowledge then becomes a burden because intellectual knowledge scatters the mind. Only that knowledge can bring us peace, which reveals to us our essential reality. One who has opened the book of his heart needs no other book. The mystic Nuri says, "Throw in the fire the hundreds of books and sheets of paper you read, and let your heart and soul turn to God." Inner knowledge is obtained neither by reading nor listening to scriptures, because inner knowledge cannot be had through the mind and intellect. It is a subject for personal, inner experience. How can a person who doesn't know the Supreme Lord, the subject of the Vedas, benefit from the study of the Vedas? Asks the Rig Veda, and adds, only those who know him live in peace and harmony. Tulsi Sahib says, someone who has read all the 4 Vedas, the 18 Puranas, the 9 grammars and the 6 philosophies, but has not realized the path of Surat Shabad, is no better than the mimicking Jandul. Footnote: Jandul, a bird which imitates sounds, including spoken words, obviously without knowing their meaning, in much the same manner as priests recite and quote the words of saints without realizing their underlying message. End footnote. Bulle Shah says, why do you read all these books, only to carry this bundle of misery on your head? Stop calculating. Read the one point that will eliminate all these chapters of heresy. Guru Nanak says, man may read and study books by the cartload, and he may read and study the entire multitude of books. He may read and study books and put them in boats. He may read and study books and fill pits with them. He may read year upon year and may study for all the months that there are. He may continue reading for his entire life and may study with every breath of his. Nanak, only one thing, God's name, is of account, and all else is but to prate and prattle in pride. Guru Arjan says, man reads holy texts and studies the Vedas. He practices inner washing and breath control. But he escapes not from the company of the 5 evil passions and is all the more tied to haughty disposition. Hafiz says, as long as you pursue the path of knowledge, you will be without any knowledge of reality. Let me give you an important clue. Don't think too highly of yourself, and you may find release. Knowledge is like a garland of flowers around the neck of a saint, but is a burden for someone who is confined to the physical. Even so, when you have finally decided on something after weighing its pros and cons, you should put your body and mind to it. For if such resolve is directed towards spirituality, the mind and intellect become still, and the soul manifests its glory. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that people who follow the path of ignorance are in utter darkness, and those who are engrossed in theoretical knowledge about God are in even greater darkness. Saints lay stress on a practical approach to spirituality. They see no value in mere theory. Impressive speech and impassioned debate based on hearsay and book knowledge does not kindle spirituality. It is one thing to talk about sweets and their recipes, and quite another to prepare and eat them. A Persian mystic says, if you go on repeating pudding, pudding, or keep talking about it for 100 years, just talking will never sweeten your mouth. Bhai Gurdas says, by repeating sugar, sugar, your mouth doesn't get sweetened. By repeating fire, fire, cold is not dispelled. By repeating doctor, doctor, no one can get rid of disease. By repeating sandalwood, a foul odour doesn't change to sweet fragrance, nor does light appear by repeating moon, moon. 3 components of spirituality. 3 things are necessary to attain spirituality. 1. Satsang. Sat means truth, also true, alive, awake. Sang means company. Satsang is the company of someone who is alive with the Spirit of God. As a Satguru is the manifestation of truth, his company constitutes real satsang. We are dyed in the colour of spirituality if we sit in his company and listen to his discourses. Just as we feel cool in a pool of water and warm in the vicinity of fire, how can we escape being influenced by the company of a spiritual king? It is said that God abides in the company of his beloved saints. Kabir says, my mind became a bird and soared to the heavens, but it found the heavens empty, for God lives in the company of the saints. Guru Ram Das says, joining the society of saints, I inquire about the track to God. In the saints' congregation, the Lord God abides. Footnote. Congregation. Sangat, the community or fellowship of disciples. End footnote. Guru Nanak defines satsang as a gathering where only God's name is explained. How is the society of saints known? The name of the one Lord is mentioned there. Satsang is of 2 kinds, external and internal. External satsang is the physical company of a master or a gathering held under the authority of a master. Internal satsang is a union of the soul with the Shabad form of the master. Guru Amar Das says that without the true Guru, there is no Sangat. 2. Satguru. The true Guru or Master is the body form of the Lord, through whose person truth is manifest, and who is indeed one with that truth. Truth pervades his inner being, and he is animated with the Spirit of God. He is the pure one, in whose being truth has assumed a human form. He is the wellspring of wisdom, the fountainhead of bhakti or devotion. He is endowed with the power to put souls on the true path and lead them to their ultimate destination in God. Indeed, he is God in human form. Books and scriptures cannot put us in touch with that truth. Knowledge of truth can only be realized within. It cannot be imparted through external means of communication. Only that person really lives whose heart is alive with God's presence. Guru Nanak says, he alone lives within whose mind that master abides. O Nanak, none else is really alive. Rumi says, indeed that voice is from the king, although it comes from the lips of his devotee. It is not just his teachings which bestow spiritual benefits. His very presence nurtures life, elevates the soul, and dyes it in the colour of God. His company is the leaven for the uplift of the soul. The body, mind, and soul blossom through his will and pleasure. In an instant, he can bestow spiritual wealth on his disciples. With his touch, glance, word, gesture, or merely his attention. He is the bread and water of life. He satisfies the spiritual hunger and thirst of the disciple, if that disciple is fortunate enough to have that hunger and thirst. The Satguru, or true master, is the source of knowledge of the self, and he gives according to the capacity of the disciple to receive. It must be further emphasized that only a perfect master can bestow spiritual blessings. Kabir says, "What can a disciple do if his master is spiritually blind? It would be like one blind man showing the way to another blind man, and both falling in the ditch." Guru Nanak says, "The disciples whose religious guide is blind find no place. Sans the true Guru, Lord's name is not obtained. Without the name, what is the aim of human life?" 3. Satnam. True, Sat, name, Nam, refers to the Dhanatmak or melodious inner name of the true Lord, which supports the entire universe and is reverberating within all of us. Footnote, Dhanatmak, having the nature of Atmak, the melody, Dun, the inexpressible, primal sound, which cannot be spoken or written, nor heard with the physical ears, the inner music which can be experienced only by the soul. End footnote. It is the audible voice of God and is present in every heart. It is a string that ties the soul to God and brings about union between the two. This divine music is reverberating within all of us, but rare is the person whose consciousness is attuned to it. The name is not repeated with the tongue or at the throat or the heart center. It is hidden and reveals itself through secret practices. Kabir advises us to devote ourselves to the repetition of the name before death overtakes us and we lose the game of life. Kabir says, "The name of the Lord is the very essence of truth. The entire world is but an illusion." Kabir also says, "Repeat the name of God as God is grabbing you by the hair. Who knows when and where he will strike, at home or in a far-off place?" Key practices in Sant Mat. A human being is a combination of body, which is gross material, mind, which is subtle material, and soul, which sustains them both and provides us with the gift of life. The first two components are time-bound and perishable, while the third one, the soul, is beyond the sphere of death. The soul sustains the body in much the same way as God sustains the entire universe. Not only that, whatever is in the universe can also be discovered in the body. In other words, the soul bears the same relationship to God as does the part to the whole. Muslim mystics have described the human body, Alam-e-Sagir, microcosm, as the model of the entire universe, Alam-e-Kabir, macrocosm. Guru Nanak says that the macrocosm is the same as the microcosm, and we understand the Lord by the Guru's grace and recognize him through his Shabad. Anyone who seeks God must search for him within himself, for that is where his real abode is. Bipa says, "He who is in the universe, that also abides in the body, and whoever seeks, he finds him there." Saints speak of the soul as being a particle of God. In other words, it has the qualities of God. It is a primary objective of all human beings to strive for the full development of their body, mind, and soul. As far as spiritual development is concerned, saints advise us to go to a perfect being who hasn't merely learnt from books, but has, through spiritual practice, attained union with God. The food we eat, the company we keep, the lifestyle we adopt, and the environment we live in all influence the development of our bodies and minds. We are therefore advised to eat sattvic food, forego what is not essential in life, and avoid activities that destroy our concentration and dissipate our energies. Footnote: sattvic food. Food such as fruits, vegetables, milk products, grains and nuts. That produces sattvic qualities of peace and tranquility. End footnote. Seekers who follow these principles are taught certain practices that help to unfold their consciousness and develop them spiritually. These are Simran, repetition, remembrance; Dhyan, contemplation; Bhajan, listening to the Shabad. Our mind is always engrossed in the remembrance and contemplation of worldly things, and thoughts concerning friends and worldly objects keep hindering our concentration within. In order to eliminate these worldly thoughts and images and fix our mind on God, devotees are given certain sublime names of God to repeat and advised to contemplate on the beautiful face of the Master. Saints teach us to repeat these names with the tongue of the soul and to contemplate on the form of the Master with the eye of the soul. These two practices help bring about stillness of the mind and prepare it to listen to the melody of Shabad, which is heard with the ear of the soul and which reverberates within everyone, regardless of religion or nationality. The soul and the current of Shabad, being of the same essence, have a natural affinity for each other. Through the three practices mentioned above, the wave of Shabad attracts the drop of the soul and merges it into the ocean that is God. The mind can no longer receive energy from the soul, and so it becomes motionless. The Master explains these three steps to his disciples in detail. With the help of Simran and Dhyan, the scattered attention is concentrated at its natural seat at the eye center. By stages, the Shabad then elevates the soul to salvation in its true home, which is the very source of Shabad.